Hi guys, in this episode of Plum's Thoughts On, I'm gonna be sharing my thoughts on the 20th episode of the 11th and final season, one of my favorite shows ever, The Walking Dead. The episode is called What's Being Lost, and I actually thought we were actually going to lose somebody, at least something more than what we did, but sadly we didn't, and that is one of the issues that I'm going to be talking about in this episode in general. But before we get into my specific thoughts for the story of the episode in the episode itself, there is something that I want to talk about in regards to the fandom reaction to this episode. I personally enjoyed this episode quite a lot. It feels like the episodes of 11C so far have been just getting better and better, and I've just been enjoying them more and more. Because episode 9, no, not 19, episode 17, felt very action-packed, with not much substance, but there were some cool moments there, and I overall enjoyed it because of the high action and the fast pace of the episode. Then episode 18 had more melodrama to it, but that kind of gave it more substance, and similarly to the 17 episode, I enjoyed that one quite a lot, more than the first one because of the more substance into it. Then in episode 19 we had even more melodrama and some really cool action and the reveal of the variant, which made me enjoy that episode even more. And then in this episode we have quite a lot of action as well, a lot of tension, a lot of really cool character interactions, some really cool moments, and a lot of really cool gore. And I enjoyed it even more. Big part why I enjoyed the episode, and I'm gonna get into in depth more in a little bit, but the big reason why I enjoyed this episode is because it felt like old school Walking Dead. It felt like season 5, season 6 Walking Dead, and I really enjoyed that about it. But apparently people didn't like it. And I don't get why. And I think I saw the same kind of reaction for episode 19, which is so mind-boggling to me because I really enjoyed that episode. So it makes me feel like I have such an opposite opinion all the time. Like, I don't understand how it so happens that every time I enjoy an episode, everybody, or at least a significant amount of people on the subreddit, apparently don't like it. Like, how does that even happen? I know that I'm somewhat of a contrarian. Sometimes it's kind of intentional. Most of the time, it's not intentional that I disagree with the popular opinion. But, like, I'm not trying to have the opposite opinion and, like this episode just because people didn't like it. It seems like those people are kind of contrarian. Because I liked it first before I saw that they didn't like it, you know? And yeah, I genuinely enjoyed this episode. But seeing so many people be so critical of it and so nitpicky at times, like, I don't know, it makes me first of all question whether I truly enjoyed this episode or whether I'm kind of deluding myself and I'm having a Stockholm syndrome and trying to make myself feel like I'm not wasting my time with these final episodes. And also, it just makes me... I mean, it just kind of ruins my mood, for a lack of a better term. Seeing so many people shit on it. It's like how it pisses me off when people on other subreddits or even on YouTube ask whether this show is still on when they see something either positive or negative about The Walking Dead. Just seeing so many people be so angry about it and so hateful about it just kills my mood and my enjoyment of it. I know it shouldn't, but that's how I feel about it. And I feel like, well, I kind of get where some of the criticisms towards this episode come from. I feel like the biggest reason why people don't like this episode is because they set themselves for certain things to happen regardless of whether the show has actually said or set up that those things are gonna happen. It's like people are gonna be mad when Rick doesn't show up at all, even in a post-credit scene by the end of this show, despite the fact that the show has never claimed in any way, shape or form that Rick is going to show up. It's like people have these expectations, maybe some founded in like some that make sense, but most don't. Like, it makes sense to expect the final season to feel more epic and more substantial than your average Walking Dead season. That makes sense, and I'm open to criticisms in regards to this final season and these final episodes in that regard, because I do agree that they should have felt more epic. They should have basically gave each character an episode to wrap up their story. In a way, I feel like that's the best way they could have done it, or at least that's what I would do if I was in their place. But I don't agree that you should set certain expectations of how the story should go and then complain about it when it doesn't, despite the fact that the story never said it was going in that direction. And this episode, for me too, is kind of one of those episodes where I kind of don't have the right to judge a story choice. Like, you know how I've said in many of my reviews how I don't judge story choices. And what I mean by that is that as an amateur writer myself, I wouldn't like somebody to criticize the choice of the direction in which I've chosen to take my story just because they maybe have come up with an alternative idea that could have been just as cool, or would have liked it to go in a different direction. I don't like that to be judged about my story, because I have a direction in which I want to take my story, and I want to take it, and I don't think it's fair to criticize it just because I wanted to take it in that direction. I don't think that's a fair criticism. So that's why I've chosen not to criticize other writers' choices about taking the story in a certain direction. Like, I don't know if I've ever mentioned it or kept it in the videos when I've mentioned it, because I'm pretty sure I've mentioned it in my videos, but back in like season 9 when Henry was killed by the Whisperers, I disagreed with that choice, but I still didn't judge it. Like, I disagreed with that choice because I feel like there was more that could have been done with Henry as a character than there has been done with either Carol or Ezekiel, who are the two characters connected to Henry, and even with Lydia. So I feel like it would have been more logical to kill Ezekiel and keep Henry, but they didn't do that. And that is fair, because I don't have the right to necessarily criticize the direction in which they wanted to take the story. And in this episode, kind of similarly, I am kind of in two minds about Lance's death. I get where they were going, what they were going for with the death. I do enjoy it. I do feel satisfied with that death. But at the same time, I feel like there could have been equally a satisfying direction in which they could have taken his character, where he just left and either maybe came back for the finale, or maybe kind of brought back the CRM in some way into the story, depending on whether that part of the story is actually going to show up, because like I said, the show hasn't said whether the CRM will show up in any way, shape or form or not. It's only speculation that we have, and potentially some assumptions that we can make based on lines that characters have mentioned, which could lead us to think that the CRM will show up. So they potentially could have had him leave after Carol and Daryl let him go, and either come back in the season finale, or whenever they bring in the CRM, if they do, or maybe make him show up with the CRM in any of the spin-offs. That could also have been cool, because he was a very entertaining character. He was one of the most entertaining characters of this season, if I gotta be honest. And I really like the performance by his actor, whose name I don't know. So, yeah, I'm okay with his death. I think it was a satisfying death. It was one of the most satisfying deaths in a while, if I gotta be honest. And I honestly felt more about him dying than I did for Alden. And to be honest, that is because Alden's death was really done in a very shitty way. They didn't even have him die on screen, despite the fact that I'm pretty sure he was built on the opening credits. Like, how can you be built in the opening credits and not even fucking get an on-screen death? Like, are you kidding me? And in that case, I do again understand what they were going for with that death, but to be honest, I feel like it was so fucking obviously telegraphed that he was gonna die there, that what fucking entertainment value could I get out of that scene the way it was done? If it was a twist where we thought that he survived and then we'd find out that he died, that could have been satisfying. But we all knew that he was gonna die, for crying out loud. So to know that and for them to see him die, yeah, I'm not gonna feel much about his death, even though I enjoyed him quite a lot as a character. So yeah, I actually felt more about Lance's death than I did for Alden. And yeah, like I said, ultimately I am overall satisfied with his death. I think it was a pretty cool way to do it. And in general, I really enjoyed him in this episode, actually, seeing him actually kind of work with our group. He kind of felt a little bit like Negan in this episode. Because he's the bad guy, but he's kind of working with our crew against the other bad guy. So he kind of very much filled the Negan role a little bit in this episode. And I think that's why it was so entertaining to see him work with Carol so much. Like, that was really cool. And in general, this episode was, again, just like the last couple of ones, really cool action that I enjoyed. Some really nice sentimental moments. One of my favorite ones being actually between Connie and Yumiko with the sign language. That whole scene was actually surprisingly emotional, if I gotta say, with some of the things that they said to each other, with how they cannot see each other, because if they did see each other, the bad guys will know that they have talked, because everybody has been getting kidnapped by some secret agents that Pamela has, or whatever, and only Carol, Daryl, and Connie so far have managed to escape. Although we know that Connie is going to be fine based on the trailer, because she's going to team up with Daryl. Probably next episode, we'll see though. Either next episode or the episode after that. Like, we kind of have some clues about where certain things are gonna go right now. And I gotta say, I thought that we weren't gonna see any footage in the trailer beyond the first 4 episodes, but there's quite a few scenes that we still haven't seen that probably are gonna have it in the next 2 episodes, because I don't think they've used any footage from the final episode. I don't think at all. It would be dumb for them to do so, because I think they should at least keep that episode open to wild speculation. And I still hope that episode is actually as long as it seems like it's going to be, because I think I've heard that it's going to be very extended. I've heard rumors that it's going to be like 2 hours long or whatever. I doubt that, but it could be cool if that is the case. Yeah, another thing that I really want to bring up about this episode that I said earlier is how this episode felt a lot like Season 5, Season 6, The Walking Dead kind of thing. And I think the reason why, besides a couple of things that I'm going to mention when I get to my notes, because I've written some of those things down, I just really enjoyed the kind of refreshing scenery that we had in this episode, because usually we're kind of used to a bunch of fields and a bunch of forests and a bunch of roads when we're doing stuff around Alexandria and Hilltop and the like. So to see this kind of like hill that we saw in this episode when Carol and Hornsby escaped the Commonwealth, I don't know, that kind of felt like old school Walking Dead. Like, I feel like it's kind of a refreshing location change, you know? Some of the atmosphere reminded me a little bit, I guess, of the Pike scene, which was also on like a hilly place, and I really enjoyed that, so I like that. But in general, this just felt like an episode from like Season 6. Just like how episode 19 of last season felt like an episode that should have happened in Season 6. So it would make me care more about Aaron and Gabriel, who now actually feel like main characters after I watched that episode. Until that point, they still felt like supporting characters in my eyes. But that, in the same way, this episode also felt like an episode from that era. It's just the atmosphere was very much like that. And yeah, I don't think there's anything else that I have to say, actually. That's pretty much what I have to cover. I guess maybe we can talk a little bit about the death scene for Lance, which I'm okay with. I actually liked that Carol and Dario were willing to let him go, and I actually wasn't sure what the show was going to commit to, whether they were going to kill him or whether they would let him go. And like I said, I think both options would have been fine, either letting him go or killing him like what they did. I think both options could have been a really cool direction to take the character. That's one of those moments where I feel like it would have been cool either way. So I'm not 100% sure which one I would prefer more, you know? I would enjoy both. But that was a really nice scene as a whole there. I really, really enjoyed it. And like I said again, I really enjoyed the performance of the actor who plays Lance. Like, he was really entertaining character this episode. And I love how he was trying to kind of cozy up to Carol and Dario a little bit because he knew that they are going to wreck shit up in the Commonwealth. And, he was basically trying to cozy up to them the same way he cozied up to Pamela so he can get power. And I thought that maybe there was a potential to kind of redeem him just like how we redeemed Negan after all this time. Because, like I said, he in general felt like he was feeling that role in this episode. So I really, really enjoyed that about it. But yeah, that was pretty good. Like, I actually feel perfectly satisfied with the way his story went here. I don't understand the people who say that his death was anticlimactic or dumb. Like, this is the kind of shit that pisses me off because it makes me second guess my opinion, which I guess is a good thing because it means that I'm not stuck in my own little echo chamber. It's good to question your opinions. But I feel like it's not questioned in the right way. Because it makes me feel like I'm not allowed to enjoy it in a way. Because so many people seem to think this way, then it must mean that maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I am deluding myself, you know? And that's kind of why it bothers me. That's why I stopped reading the opinions people have for Fear the Walking Dead episodes, because I so vehemently disagree, because I feel like I'm able to more objectively judge the quality of the episodes and still commend them for the good things, even if overall it could suck or it could be a weird direction that they're taking the show and the characters and the like. But yeah, I don't know. I honestly personally enjoy the death, so I don't really care what people say about it. And to explain the criticism about the death feeling anticlimactic, some people have brought up how it's dumb for Lance to go for the gun and try to shoot Dario and Carol. Honestly, it kind of makes perfect sense why he would do that there. He has been shown as a person who has some anger issues where he kind of blows up once in a while. If he doesn't get things going his way, you know? And he tried to plead with Dario and Carol to let him stay because he cannot survive on his own out there or whatever. So when he was constantly denied the choice, the ability to stay with them and stay in the Commonwealth or whatever, he kind of just exploded again, you know? And just did an irrational action. And you could say, well, The Walking Dead frequently has the characters do irrational actions like this. And okay, I can see that. That doesn't change that this makes sense for Lance's character, I feel like. He didn't see an option in which he was gonna survive or necessarily... he didn't see a better option than this. So essentially he was going all out and just trying to hurt them as much as he can before he dies or whatever. He was essentially kind of going for a reckless revenge or whatever. Like what he did after Dario shot him at the end of episode 16, I think it was. Like after he shot him, he was just that much angrier to go and capture them. But yeah, I don't know. That's kind of how I feel ultimately about this episode. I honestly enjoyed it quite a lot, and I can't wait to see next episode. Because it seems like we're gonna have Negan and Ezekiel teaming up, which is a team up which I didn't see coming, and I don't think they've even really interacted, so that's gonna be really cool, because obviously due to who Negan is, they're gonna have some bad feelings about each other, so that's gonna be pretty cool. But yeah, let's get through my notes that I wrote down, which are actually quite a lot. I thought that I maybe would have the most notes that I've ever had, and I thought I was gonna even write on this page, but we didn't get that far. Maybe because I kind of got lazy in the second half of the episode, but whatever. So yeah, the first thing I've written is, why are they being taken? Why is everybody being taken? And we kind of learned throughout the episode, I guess, because Pamela wants to remove them from the Commonwealth because they are a threat. Kind of similarly to how the guy early on in the second third of the season was a threat because he wanted to overthrow the government and wanted to eat the rich. So they were getting disappeared, essentially. Although it really kind of made me mad how she made it seem like they were kicked out of the Commonwealth and not fucking sent to a prison colony like what we actually learned happened in this episode and what we're gonna see in the next episode. Next thing I've written is Badass Miko, which is in relation to that one scene where Yumiko goes to Pamela to question what happened to her friends, and then a guard tries to hold her and she fucking smacks the shit out of him with a punch in the face. Like, that was pretty cool. And then in that whole scene, Pamela was being a really fucking annoying villainous bitch. So the thing that I wrote down was, bitch has to die. Which, if you remember from season 10, is a line that Carol said in relation to Alpha. I honestly feel like I hate Pamela more than I hate Alpha. For whatever reason. I kind of feel like Pamela might have been a better villain, because I feel like maybe Alpha I couldn't really take seriously as a villain because of her accent. Even though the actress is amazing. The next thing I've written is, I wish we saw more of Tommy, Yumiko's brother. And yeah, I do. I really like the actor personally, because I remember watching him in Hawaii Five-0 several years ago, back when I still used to watch TV. I used to love watching Hawaii Five-0, and he was a really cool character who was an antagonist who worked with the good guys in that show. And it's just, he's a really good actor, and I really like him in that role, so I wish we saw more of him in this final part of the season, but we really haven't. The next thing I've written is, can these guys be more fucking obvious? And that is in relation to the guys who were kidnapping everybody, because not only were they obviously kind of color-coded, for lack of a better term, just like how the Commonwealth troopers are all wearing white, these super agents or secret agents or whatever were all wearing kind of like black jackets and the like, so it kind of makes it very obvious who the bad guys are in a group of people. And with the way they were looking and their facial expressions and everything, it was obvious that these guys were up to no good. So yeah, that's what I mean by that line. The next thing I've written is, that was a really nice convo, which is in relation to that one conversation between Yumiko and Connie, which I think it was a really, really nice scene, and I really liked the acting by Connie's actress in that scene. She's a really good actress, man. I love her. Next thing I've written is, this reminds me of that episode when the gang attacked the Savior outpost. And I think I wrote that down around the time when Carol and Dario were sneaking into the prison to free Hornsby and to ask him to help to help them find their people. And it definitely felt reminiscent of that. The atmosphere and the pacing and the tension was very much the same. The next thing I've written is, I love how terrified Lance is from Carol and Darrow. That was a really well acted scene by Hornsby. I really, really enjoyed that scene there. With how both of them threatened him and how terrified he was out of both of them. Like, especially from Carol. Like, I get why Darrow would be terrifying because he's a big, muscular guy. But he was even terrified from Carol. Like, it's so cool whenever Carol is super fucking terrifying like this. I really enjoy it. The next thing I've written is, that is so gory, holy shit. And that is in relation to Sebastian's head being fucking destroyed, a la Glenn. And that was done, we presume, by Hornsby because he left his coin into the thing that was left of Sebastian's head. And that was a really, really nice scene there, and the reaction by Pamela there and how mad she was at that Hornsby did this. That was really well done. I really, really enjoyed that. Like, this episode actually really kind of made me care about the whole storyline, you know? I was kind of lukewarm about the storyline, but now I'm really impacted by it, and I really, really enjoy it. Next thing I've written is, I am getting some really cool old school Walking Dead vibe. And I was, with all the shots and the kind of atmosphere that this episode had. It felt like the good old days of like season 3, season 6... That's how it felt, and I really, really enjoyed that about it. And it genuinely made me kind of be hype about the next 4 episodes, because it is starting to feel a little bit like the end of the road, you know? Next thing I've written is "Eat shit, Pamela," which I'm pretty sure is in relation to the scene where Yumiko says that she has decided to defend Eugene in court instead of prosecute him, which is not what Pamela wanted, but I really enjoyed. I enjoyed that scene and how mad it made Pamela. Next thing I've written is "Gave you a chance, Lance," obviously in relation to the scene where Carol and Daryl gave him a chance to live and survive and not die. Which is more than he deserves to be given, to be honest, and he still kind of wasted that chance. And yeah, the next thing I've written is, why is this so epic all of a sudden? And I think, I'm not sure whether that is in relation to that scene still, or the scene afterwards where we see a bunch of buses with people being taken somewhere, with people's heads being covered by bags, and everybody getting injected to be put to sleep or something like that. Like, that felt kind of really epic, like we're really ramping up for the final couple of episodes. Next thing I've written is actually in relation to the trailer for the next episode, and that is Negan and Zeke working together. Hell yeah, because we see that the characters are taken to like a prison colony or something, and to escape, Negan and Ezekiel are going to have to work together. In that one scene that we see in the trailer, Negan asks Ezekiel whether he's with him, and Ezekiel kind of angrily and reluctantly says, "I am with you." But it's not clear whether he's angry at the Commonwealth when he says that, or whether he's kind of reluctant to work with Negan because Negan was the bad guy, you know? And the final thing that I wrote down was after the episode was over, and that is, I feel sad that Lance died more than I did for Alden, which I already talked about, but I had to mention it because I wrote it down. But yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. I'm not exactly sure whether I would put it higher rated than last episode, which I really liked, but it honestly maybe kind of feels like higher rated. I feel like maybe if I give it as high of a rating as I'm thinking about, it might be me blowing my load a little bit too early, compared to what the next couple of episodes are probably going to be in terms of their quality. And I don't really feel like it's really... It doesn't feel like it really shows the actual quality of the episode, because I feel like I'm maybe rating the episode more in relation to the season rather than the whole show. But I kind of feel like this episode is maybe like a 9.6 out of 10. Like, I gave last episode, I think, 9.4 out of 10. And if I gave that episode 9.4 out of 10, I feel like I kind of have to give this episode a 9.6 out of 10. Because I really enjoyed it that much more, and it was even more epic than last episode. Although ultimately I feel like maybe my ratings for this final season might be a little bloated by like a one whole point. Basically meaning that last episode was more of an 8.4 out of 10, while this one was like a 8.6 out of 10. That is also kind of like a more accurate description. But to be honest, in the future I will be covering The Walking Dead in a reaction series, or alternatively I will do a specific ranking of each episode with how much points I would give to them at this point. So you could potentially get in the future a more accurate representation of how I feel about this episode in terms of its rating. But right now, that's kind of how I feel about it. I guess in relation to the whole show, it's more of an 8.6 out of 10. But in relation to the final season, I honestly really enjoyed it, and it's a 9.6 out of 10 for me. But yeah, what did you guys think about this episode? Comment thoughts down below, and let's have a discussion about it. And also, before ending this video, I just want to give a huge shout out to my currently 7 patrons on Patreon. Omar Richmond, Deadpool, August Dice, Little Uzi, Corby Dead, Shironyan, and Edsup123. Thank you guys for your support, I really appreciate it. It really means a lot to me that you have decided to support me, you have continued to support me such a long time. Hope you continue to enjoy my content and continue to support me going forward. Thank you very much. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please leave a like, subscribe. Also, check out the description to my Wattpad where I post my stories, because in addition to doing all these videos on my channel, I am also a writer. And if you don't enjoy my stories or simply enjoy my videos, you can head over to my Patreon or to my Coffee account, where you can pledge your support and help get the channel going, help support me so I can keep writing stories you enjoy. But if you don't want to do it, that's completely fine. You can still help me out in other ways, like liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and especially sharing this video with someone who you think might enjoy it. And I think it's pretty much it for this video, so hopefully I'm gonna see you in the next one. Bye!